Well, Creature Commandos delivers yet another story, and I was of the opinion that the last episode was the best they had done so far. Well, this one beat that. So maybe it's a show that gets better as it goes. But they're continuing on where they give you a bit of a study, character study, if you will, or the backstory of the individual members of the Commandos. And of course, last episode was G.I. Robot. And this time, Weasel gets his full story. And in the comics, from what I knew of the character Weasel, and if I'm assuming it's meant to be the same one, and who knows how many reboots and retcons they've done over the decades with, Crisis and all that sort of stuff. But originally, back in the 80s, there was a character called Weasel in the Firestorm comic book series, and he was a guy in a costume. He was a killer bent on revenge against people he felt wronged him and that sort of thing. But since then, I don't know, maybe he developed something and he's like a werewolf or whatever. In this iteration, and maybe this is how the comics has him today, he's pretty much this weird creature, and that's it, which he fits in with the creatures. Yeah, because he's something of a monster, not quite human. So they delve into to his story, and was introduced originally in the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn directed, and he captures the scene because he's such a weird character, and seemingly was killed off very quickly within the film. But fortunately, we discovered, if you stayed till the end, that no, he did survive. And so now he's a part of this team with the added benefit to get around the rules that are now imposed upon Amanda Waller is, of course, he's not considered human. And with good reason. I mean, look at him. So anyway, he's easily a funny character despite the nefarious deeds attributed to him, which got him locked up. But what is the real story? Well, I won't spoil everything. But they managed to craft this powerful story of a most unlikely source, and that's probably going to be, for the most part, even the robot you felt sorry for and all this sort of stuff, except he's a robot. Here, this is even, there's a lot of hilarity in it and absurdity, and at the same time, it's crushing sadness of this terrible, sad story of this poor, messed up creature, whatever it is. We still don't know where it came from or anything like that. But as it turns out, he's a victim of circumstance and the terrible outcomes of misunderstanding. Yeah, just one after another. People who, for the most part, meant well, but didn't understand what was happening, and it all goes horribly wrong. And he pays the price for it. Of course, several pay the price for it. But this puts him in the position he's in, and he has no means by which to communicate this. I suppose if they get someone who can actually read his mind and whatnot, then perhaps, they would finally understand, oh my God, this is terrible, and that sort of thing. And he would get some sort of redemption. He was actually quite a heroic character, at least in this iteration or narrative or what have you. So that's the big win and the main power of the episode. It's crafted there. And, of course, some of it, I assume there would be some element of that he was misunderstood and this sort of thing. That's not going to be the case for some of the others. Certainly not Dr. Phosphorus, I wouldn't think, even though he's probably one of the cooler. He is the coolest character. Weasel's right there with him at this point. But anyway, the rest of it, you get more where they're going and what the big threat is. And, we all misunderstood, perhaps, yet again. Perhaps Cersei was not the big villain here. And more of the nightmare vision. And I think a good bit of that's already leaked out. So as they've been going, you got little teases of Superman. And of course, he's in the David Cornsweet suit. So that's the design of him. Off in the distance was Wonder Woman, and it's of interest because there's been no Wonder Woman cast yet for the DCU. Only Superman has been cast, or at least what we know. We know Green Lantern's been cast and that sort of thing. And of course, Peacemaker is in there, so we see him. Apparently Starfire as well. And then in this episode, as it pans and gives you more of a field of all these crucified heroes, Batman is there. Now, it's all very dark. His cape pretty much covers everything, so you don't really get a good look as what the potential DCU design for Batman would be. So it's very basic, and because they theoretically haven't cast it yet or had an idea. There is someone who plays Batman already, but apparently is not going to be their DCU Batman. Of course, that could all change, perhaps, but anyway, it doesn't matter. That's the image you get of this potential future. Yeah, I know, another nightmare scenario is what they were doing last time with Darkseid. It appears here there's some alliance with a character that's been introduced and another famous DC supervillain. And apparently they come together and conquer the world and defeat I don't know if they're called the Justice League yet or what have you, but the main characters of that, along with Peacemaker too. So that's the setup there. So you get a little more of that, and the overall element of the story is misunderstanding. It repeats throughout of it, and so that's one where even Waller is now beginning to wonder, maybe Cersei's got a point, despite the problems with her. And then the Frankenstein monster, I guess they'll just call him Frankenstein, forever obsessed with the bride, has now come to believe that Rick Flag Sr. Is having a romance with her, or she's attracted to him, whatever. But it's all a misunderstanding, you see. And they come to an agreement and stuff like that. It's, it works out. It's funny and all that. So it's an okay show. It's not on par, I would think, as Peacemaker was when that thing got better and better as it went. And this might get better too. And I don't even think it's on par with the Suicide Squad film. If nothing else, by its own design, it's a knockoff of that, because by the nature of the story is like they can't have a Suicide Squad at the moment because of the restrictions placed on Waller after she got exposed by her daughter in Peacemaker. So she's now turned to this team. So anyway, there we are. We do meet some other prisoners that are monsters as well. Prison life underwater is not always all that great. Well, it's not meant to be. You're in prison, so yeah. Anyway, a powerful scene for the story of Weasel, because in its hilarity and horror in a lot of it, but also extreme sadness, just heartbreaking stuff. And he does have an advocate, and I'm not sure if it must be. You don't know the amount of years that have passed of how long ago this event took place, and if she was one of the ones involved there, and that's why she's sympathetic for him or something of that nature, maybe. But anyway, if you saw it, you know what I'm talking about to some extent. But anyway, it's a good episode. Probably, again, this is probably their better one overall, and the next one might be even better or just on par with it. So I didn't have a lot of hopes for the show or anything. I thought it was yet another one of these leftovers from the previous regime, which technically it was, but they managed to reorient it to fit in with this, so it exists in the same world as the Superman movie, which is soon upon us. Yeah, it is. And of course, Superman is the real beginning for the DCU.